Good morning, Namaskar, Guten Morgen, and Namaste to all our hundreds of listeners and audience all across the world. This is architect Priya Gokhale going live from the city of Pune. Friends, a warm welcome to all of you from ICI Pune Chapter and Ultratech. We are embarking on an amazing journey, and the reason I started with language is because the basic bridge between human connects between human beings is words, and the second bridge is the bridge itself. So on this note, without much ado, I would immediately take this pleasure and opportunity to not only welcome our wonderful listeners across the world, but yes, to welcome our guest speaker, Shashikant Limaye sir. Limaye sir, thank you very much for coming today.
Thank
From
you.
me, the host of this morning, again, a heartfelt thanks to ICI Pune chapter and Ultratech Cement, because until, and if you had not done this, people like us across the world, architects, creative people, professionals, would really not have got a chance to embark on the saga that is the railway. So on this note, I would like to request Engineer Ramesh Kulkarni to address the gathering briefly on behalf of ICI Pune chapter. Over to you, Ramesh sir.
Very happy good morning, one and all. It is my great pleasure and honor to welcome this August gathering on behalf of ICI Pune chapter to the second series of Concrete Weeks, Bromance of the Railways, presented by eminent engineer Shri S. Sir. I'd like to narrate only one short story which was shared by engineer S. Sir with me. It is like his grandfather's story. My grandfather was in COP, then College of Science, from 1905 to 1908, and obtained his LCE. That time it was licentiate in civil engineering and not B. During one of those years, he and his three friends got enamored by fighting of Indian freedom from Britishers. They decided to seek local Tilak's advice and sought his appointment. On the day of appointment and the given hour, they landed in the Gaikwad Wada, where Lokmanya Tilak was residing. Tilak Maharaj called them in his study, where these four youngsters expressed their wish to leave the college and join freedom struggle. He listened to their reasoning and then reacted in a very astonishing way. He explained to them that there are a number of freedom fighters in the field who unfortunately couldn't get the opportunity of higher education. They should consider themselves lucky to get the unique opportunity of imbibing the knowledge of engineering. It is this knowledge of theirs which will be most useful to propel India forward after independence. Developing infrastructure in India will be the most formidable challenge after independence. This revealed the visionary Lokmanya Tilak was an dissociated the group of four friends from the engineering college from the taking misstep. Continuing the same legacy of his grandfather, Limaye sir passed his final exam, acquiring the gold medal in Pune University in 1971, and completed his MTech structures, IIT Bombay, and jumped in the mission of propelling India towards the developing infrastructure for Atmanirbhar Bharat, even at the age of 71. With this, I again welcome Engineer Limaye sir and all the August gathering and hand it over to the Priya ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramesh sir. That was indeed a very sweet memory. And now I have the pleasure to actually read out a formal introduction of Limaye sir. This is a very formal introduction. I would say this is just 1% of who he is. But it is necessary that in any formal program like this, it is important to read out a formal introduction for all of us. And therefore, I'm reading out from this. Born in 1949, Shashikant D. Limaye, who holds a legacy of engineering in the family, graduated in civil engineering from the College of Engineering Pune in the year 1971. Very important year, note. He stood first in the University of Pune and was a recipient of the University Gold Medal. He did his MTech in structural engineering from IIT Bombay in 1973. He joined the Indian Railway Service of Engineers which is known as IRSE, in the December winter of 1973. He worked as Professor Bridges in Indian Railways Institute of Civil Engineering, Pune. It's called as IRISEN. During 1983 to 89, that is 6 years, he was a professor. Deputy National Project Director on UNDP project for development of bridge facility at IRISEN, and also a very important milestone, which was receiving training in USA and UK in modern bridge technology. I would like to add here, sir, that this gave Limaye sir a chance to absorb and see the entire length and breadth of a country like America, which also was just coming into this world of bridges and connectivity. I believe it was an important milestone in his rich and fruitful career. Limaye sir worked with Konkan Railway Corporation right from the beginning, that is 1990, up to the commissioning of the Konkan Railway in 1998. In the capacity of Chief Engineer, Design and Coordination, he was closely associated with planning, design and implementation of Konkan Railway project, which is known for a number of innovations in bridges, tunnels and track. From 2000 to 2001 to 2013, it was a different journey, working as COO in the Indian arm of Owen Williams Railways UK, followed by again a very interesting chapter holding the position of Executive Director in Stoop Consultants. During this period, he directed design project management of several railway, tunnel, bridge projects. I would like to add here as part of this professional, journey, that as an architect myself, I think that each of these milestones in his journey have contributed to us as a fraternity, because that is why we got to learn more about him as a professional and as a person too. He is widely traveled, of course, and had the opportunity to visit two of the longest railway tunnels in the world, that is the Saikan Tunnel, which is located in Japan, and the Channel Tunnel. He has published and presented a large number of technical papers in technical journals, conferences in India and abroad. Of course, a very sought after speaker. People attend his lessons, his speeches also for many life lessons that he very, very generously gives to people like me who have had the fortune of meeting him, and so many others who are there in the gathering today. I would like to cite here a few awards amongst many. Distinguished Alumnus Award of the prized IIT Bombay in the year 2000 for the contribution made by him in the design of Konkan Railway. The S.B. Joshi Memorial Award for Excellence in Bridge and Structural Engineering, presented in 2013, instituted by the Alumni Association of COEP, Institution of Engineers, India, Pune, and College of Engineering, Pune. Distinguished Alumnus Award of National Academy of Indian Railways, formerly called the Railway Staff College, Vadodara, for his contribution in nation building. Sir is presently working as technical advisor and member of the 3-member technical expert committee on Pune Metro Railway project. It's such a sweet dessert on the cake, after the cake, that this telecast is going live from the very city which he calls his hometown, and where his current newest baby is taking shape. He is also a member of the 3-member Dispute Resolution Board of Mumbai Trans Harbour Link project. Friends, this is just a tiny bit of the goodies that Sir has to offer all of us, to put it in layman's language. I consider myself one of the fortunate people who are there in this gathering. Today is a momentous occasion for all of us, primarily as Indians, secondly as good human beings, third as proud representatives of whichever city that we are in, whether it is in India, abroad, because all of us know that the railways are actually a metaphor for connecting human minds, and that is actually what differentiates us from other animals, that we are a human being and a sensitive person at heart. On this note, Shashikant Limaye sir, I am humbled to be part of this. I welcome you. I bow down to you on this day, 13th September, Sunday. And now I request the ICI team and Ultratech to take over the proceedings and give us a minute to start Limaye sir's talk. Just to inform all of you, Limaye sir has taken immense effort to prepare a presentation. Lot of emotions and lot of memories have gone into this presentation, and I request all of you to look at it in exactly the same way. I shall not be talking at all during this presentation, except for perhaps a couple of cues here and there. Otherwise, it's all we are listening to a narration by Shashikant Limaye sir. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Priya, and good morning again. It has been a great pleasure to interact with you during the last 10 days in order to prepare this presentation and disseminate whatever has been done and we are doing in India, particularly in the light of the mission Atmanirbhar Bharat. And it's a great pleasure for me to be talking to so many people from one place. And thanks to perhaps the situation which we have found ourselves in, that we are able to now do the things on webinar and through video conferencing. I must thank ICI Pune Centre and also Ultratech, who have given me this opportunity and platform to interact with so many people all around the world, in which I am sure that today number of my seniors in railways and elsewhere, number of my peers, colleagues, and number of engineers who worked under me, and many of my students are there. And I'll be very happy to interact with them. In fact, if they have any questions, they can put it on the QA box. So Priya can probably moderate that, and I may be able to answer a few questions within the limited time available. Thank you very much, Priya, again. And I think, shall we start the presentation? Shall we?
Yes, sir. Prasad, over to you. You will have to make sure that sir is showing his screen.
Yeah. Are you able to see the screen?
No, wait a minute, sir. I will have to change the presenter. Okay.
Okay.
Now you can share your screen, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, we can see it, sir. We can see it.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Once again. And my tryst with concrete bridges is the subject of today. In fact, I'll be covering a large span right from 1920 to today. That's 100 years. What has happened in India, because many people do not know as to what achievements have been done, even the earlier part of 19th century, particularly in the reinforced cement concrete. As you know, the reinforced concrete, cement concrete came into vogue in the late 19th century, and India also progressed in that direction during the first half of the 19th century. Let me first of all pay respects to one of the greatest engineers in India, Bharat Ratna, Dr. M. Vishwesvaraya, who is supposed to be the father of engineers in India. And 15th September happens to be his birth anniversary. He was born, I think, in 1862, so very close to 160th birth. We are very close to 160th birth anniversary of this great son of India. So let us pay our respects to Dr. M. Vishwesvaraya. काय?
तिथे फुल स्क्रीन नाही फुल स्क्रीन करायचं तिथे
फुल स्क्रीन नाही इकडे येतोय ना इथं पण इथे येतोय
तुम्ही चालू ठेवा
Let me start with my heritage, the hereditary line. And my grandfather, as Priya said, Ramakrishna Sitaram Limaye, was an eminent engineer of his times, graduating from Pune Engineering College in 1908. And thereafter, he had opportunity to work with Mr. John Gammon, who was in the Bombay PWD as executive engineer, and my father joined there as deputy engineer. So he worked with him in Bombay PWD at Karachi for about 6 to 7 years. And thereafter, Mr. Gammon started his own company called Gammon Limited. Gammon India is much later, that is after independence. And he told my grandfather that why are you continuing in PWD, please join my company. And that is how my grandfather happened to join the company of Mr. Gammon, that is Gammon Limited. And he had opportunity to construct several bridges in India, largely in Sindh province and in Punjab province, because that was the area which was developing fast at that time. My father also was an eminent engineer who practiced in Pune, and he was a very reputed consulting engineer and valuer in the city of Pune. Mr. G.R. Limaye, and he happened to be the secretary of the Institution of Engineers in India Pune Centre, which with his great efforts was established in today's condition, that is the construction of the building and other assets. He was secretary for, I think, more than 8 years. And that time I remember that in 1961, as a boy, I accompanied him to Bangalore to attend the annual session of Institution of Engineers. And the famous Sir M. Vishwesvaraya happened to be the chief guest at that Congress. So I had an opportunity to have a look at Dr. Vishwesvaraya. Okay. Now I'll just speak about my gurus. Dr. E. Sridharan, I consider him as my greatest guru because working with for 8 years, practically you can say 24/7, has given me so much of knowledge and confidence, which is perhaps unique in our profession. And that is what we'll be talking about partly during my speech, this presentation, that is about the Coca-Cola Project, how we went about it and how we were able to accomplish it in such a short time without any foreign assistance in terms of consultants or even in terms of equipment, except for a small portion of equipment which was brought from Sweden for constructing the tunnels. The other important guru in my life was Shri N.K. Parsarthi, who happened to be the director of Indian Railways Institute of Civil Engineering, under whom I worked for nearly 5 years and executed the UNDP project for development of bridge technology. Coming to bridge engineering, as all of us know, that the biggest component in bridge building is concrete in one way or the other. And in fact, you'll find that more than nearly 80% work in any bridge is concreting work of one type or the another. Now, bridge engineering is essentially a very challenging discipline in which an engineer possesses not only prowess of structural engineering, but it also demands knowledge of several other sub-disciplines of civil engineering, such as soil mechanics, foundation engineering, hydrology, etc. When I became graduate in the year 1971, fortunately my grandfather happened to be there, and this is a very historic photograph of 3 engineers, the 3 generations of engineers in our family. That is my grandfather, my father, and me. Now, as I said, the tradition of building bridges runs into our family. This is a very beautiful bridge which exists today also across Tista River, very close to Siliguri, constructed in 1936. You can't believe that such bridge could be constructed in 1936 with a span of 200 feet and a height of 300 feet. Hello? Okay? Yeah. Height of 300 feet. This is a central RCC arch, which is rising 300 feet above the water level of the furious Tista River. In floods, you will find that the water level will be dipping nearly half of that arch, and it's hardly few kilometers away from the plains. This is Coronation Bridge, across river Tista near Siliguri. You can see even in 1936, the way this bridge was constructed, and my father happened to be the site engineer at this bridge, because my grandfather wanted that in the younger days, one should work at difficult sites and not in cozy positions. So when he joined Gammons, because my grandfather was chief residence engineer, so obviously he joined Gammon. He told him that you go to Northeast, where you will get a great experience in construction of bridges, and very difficult bridges are being built in that area. And you can also see the quality of concrete. He always used to tell us that the type of precautions they used to take in constructing, making concrete was very great, and no low quality work was accepted. There used to be British engineers at a senior position, and they all used to stay in a tent at such sites. And this is a finished bridge which exists today also. If somebody goes on that road towards Gangtok, then you can find very first when you enter the Tista Bay.
Wow.
I went there last year. Now the next bridge is basically constructed by my father near Khurda Road in 1938. And here you'll find that even at that time there are cantilevers now coming out of the pier, and the central portion is a suspended span in RCC. The whole structure is in RCC. And you can think at that time, although the analytical techniques of today were not available, everything was done on slide rule and lock tables. They could conceive and construct these type of bridges with great confidence. This is the bridge near Aleppi. You can see a open spandrel arch. The next two slides, one is completed and one is under construction. These are all Cements work right from 1920 to 1950. And they took pride in being the leaders in RCC bridges in India at that point in time. The approach span you will find is semi-through deck in RCC. Semi-through deck in RCC, where the vehicle is flying here and the girders are on side, which we today call U-girder. And Sistra takes so much of pride in having a U-girder evolved by them. But it was evolved long time back by Gammon in Aleppi. And this bridge stood its test of time till very recently. In fact, the problem arose with the open spandrel spans because of cables and those problems, because they didn't have that kind of material at that time. There's another bridge across river Banas on the road between Bundi and Jaipur, very near to Kota, and the arches are RCC arches. This was constructed in 1930-32, and my grandfather was in charge of this site. The next is most wonderful bridge. This Zohar Bridge in Balochistan, which is an earthquake-prone area. This is a frame structure, integral bridge, what we call today, and supported on Frankie piles. And you will imagine that these are highly scourable beds in Sindh area. There's a lot of alluvial medium in the river beds. Despite that, they were confident, and they did not worry that some pier will settle and the bridge will collapse. What today's engineers think by looking at the computer analysis, they think that if the pier sinks by 3 inches, so much of movement will come into being, which to my mind is not true, because there is high redistribution which occurs in such kind of structures. This is a bridge at Kasbah Mission, which was constructed by my father in 1936. And this is a photo of my parents, myself and my brother, Air Vice Marshal Ravi Limaye. We visited that site when I was doing Konkan Railway in 1993, and he proudly showed that bridge to us, that this was constructed in 1936 and standing as good as new. And this is a continuous span in RCC at that time. And next comes that what I have designed across Shastri River, about 6 kilometers downstream of that bridge, which consists of 13 spans of 100 feet. And one side is a very long tunnel from which the train is coming out. Now coming back to my career in the railways, I joined the railways in 1974 and underwent a training for nearly 2 years of various types. And then my first posting was in Ahmedabad. At what point in time, Sabarmati Bridge had developed problems, which was basically mass concrete piers on well foundations and on a two of the wells got tilted, and therefore it was decided to replace that bridge with a modern structure. And that was the opportunity to introduce RCC in a big way. And those mass CC piers and wells which were in between these piers, those piers were in between these piers because railway in such areas we can't change the alignment. One side is Ahmedabad Yard Complex, other side is Sabarmati Yard Complex. So we can't change the alignment. We have to construct on the same alignment, and therefore we thought of having pile foundations because any well foundation between the wells, existing wells could have endangered the wells further because of sand blow and things like that. So this was the very first bridge to my mind in which RCC cast in situ board piles were used in a scorable Sabarmati bed, because earlier the wells had tilted only because of scar. Despite that, with great confidence, this was envisaged, and this bridge is standing today after nearly 45 years. It is in service, and there are 3 tracks on the top. The idea was that each circular column will support 1 track. And this is the time of construction where French experts came to see what we are doing, because such kind of things rarely happen in their countries, that we are constructing on the same alignment. You can see the piers being constructed in the center, and later on we developed a scheme how to shift it, how the girders are to be shifted on these piers. The same girders were used. And this entire job was done in a matter of 2 years, because particularly in such situations, it is necessary to construct it preferably before next monsoon. Now this is a bridge which completely got washed away. Here you can see what happens. When the wells are shallow, due to scar, you get tilting of piers, and the entire bridge gets vanished within no time. And these kinds of situations we have faced several times, and we were straight away asked by the chief engineer as executive engineers to go to the site and restore the traffic just within sometimes within 3 days, sometimes within 4 days. Because in railways, each day of stoppage of traffic means crores of rupees of loss, and we can't lay diversions and things like that when we are in the mid-monsoon. In mid-monsoon, we have to restore it so that it sustains that monsoon. And this is the arrangement we used to adopt, CC cribs and temporary. Now the next challenge, bigger challenge, is to construct a new bridge. In this case, we could not construct on the same alignment, and it was possible to divert. So on the bottom side, you will see a new bridge. And I think this is the first bridge in India where a RCC circular column has been used, single circular, for supporting the broad gauge track. Other important innovation which you can't see in this photo is conical well cap. In fact, my boss that time, executive engineer Mr. V.K. White, he was very much after using modern technology or modern ideas. And therefore he said, why not have conical cap, which will transfer the load in compression to the well instead of bending. So this has got conical caps with a single circular pier, first time in India. While single circular pier has another advantage, that the obstruction to water is minimized, and you can place it in any direction. So the need to cross the river at right angles no more exists, and you will find the same type of thing in Pune shortly, crossing Mutha river at Sangam and also crossing Mura Mutha at Bund Garden. We have got single circular piers, and we have got curved alignment of the bridge. This is what happens in the railways sometimes. The entire bridge, 14 spans of 60 feet, just got vanished within 1 minute on the Rajdhani route on Daman-Ganga river near Valsad, north of Valsad. Now this is a challenge now because Mumbai-Delhi, as you know, was the busiest route even in that time, 1976, fully electrified. And the loss that time was every day 2 crore rupees. And it had to be restored on war footing. Therefore, again, our Ahmedabad design office was one of the best offices in Western Railway, and we used to do all designs internally. There were no consultants that time. So we thought that since half of the monsoon was yet to pass, we were in the middle of July, and therefore we need in the center of the bridge something which will stand to the test of another flood. Because Daman-Ganga, you know, the rains are very high in its catchment. So we thought of pile trestle, which is done on RCC piles, board and cast in situ socketed in the rock. So 4 piles were to support each support of the girder. And the girders were what are called as calendar Hamilton, which are 150-piece span bolted and assembled at site and then launched by pushing forward. So this entire job, you can see there are in fact 3 trestles to support 2 girders, and this whole operation was finished in a matter of 2 months. And by September, this whole line was recommissioned, and then the new bridge was constructed in just about 8 months' time along the existing alignment. This was done on diversion, and new bridge was done on existing alignment, and that was the speed of construction, and that was the urgency. This again, I would call it the first time that railways used composite girders, steel composite girders. This was the old viaduct at Dara. You might have seen this Dara just short of Kota. There is a small hilly area which is crossed by the railway line, Mumbai Delhi. So the new viaduct first is that curvature was eased, and being on the curve, we had to have concrete deck, and that is where 60 feet composite girder spans were adopted. At that time, I was executive engineer in Kota, but I was looking after the design again there for a while. I was not in charge of construction of this work, but this was also accomplished well in time, again by all Indian contractors. Thereafter, I had a great opportunity to work as professor in the Indian Railway Institute of Civil Engineering, and I consider that after having a field experience of something like 10 to 11 years, it was a boon for me because I had seen the difficulties in the field, and therefore once you have got a field experience, you know what to look for. And Indian Railway Institute of Civil Engineering had one of the best libraries in the world as far as the railway and railway bridges and tunneling field is concerned that time. And that time we used to invest about 5 lakhs of rupees every year to buy books. And I happened to be on the committee to select the books for that library. At that time, another
can I
thing.
interrupt here? Sorry,
Yeah.
can I interrupt here for a second?
Yes, yeah, no problem.
Yes. So since we've had this wonderful start where you talked about the heritage or our journey as a nation, which is recognized as one of the largest networks of railways. I have a question here. We are now in the 70s as you're talking now. So would you say that by this time we already had a pool of talent in the country which was trained and ready to handle all the challenges? At what stage do you think our country was in the early 70s as far as railways and development is concerned, according to you? Just
One of the biggest steps which was taken by Jawaharlal Nehru was to establish the IITs and give a boost to engineering colleges. Because immediately after independence, the leaders knew that this is what will propel us forward and this is required. And that is how so many steel plants were established. For rail rolling, there was a special facility created at Bhilai. And for girder fabrication, railways established big workshops. In each zone, there used to be one railway workshop who used to fabricate girders because private parties didn't have money to invest in such kind of adventures. In fact, Chittaranjan locomotive work of railways was completed. The project was completed in 5 years, and we started manufacturing steam locomotives just after 5 years. Assam Rail Link, which was completely interrupted, people do not know after independence because the line used to go through East Pakistan. We constructed that line in flat 2 years to construct New Bongaigaon to Saraigat. And that was a great achievement of Indian railway engineers even at that point in time. So we had the capabilities and we had the confidence to do jobs on our own without looking for foreign assistance or foreign aid. Yes.
wonderful, sir. Wonderful.
So going forward, many people feel that once they start working in the field, they want to continue in the field. But I always used to recommend that it is better to go back to technology again and update your knowledge. Because ultimately technology is about updation. In fact, every person who is in the field of engineering has to update himself from time to time. And particularly in today's world of knowledge explosion, this becomes very important. Otherwise, you become outdated within no time. Apart from that, today, the most important thing is to know where is the information. That is the knowledge power. Obviously, in such vast development in technology, you are not supposed to know everything. but you should know where is the thing. That is important, and whom to approach is more important. So I could hone the skills not only in terms of technical knowledge, and I referred where I had problems at site and how it came to help in Coconut will come to later. Their presentation skills are very important. In railways, of course, 11 years, I did not have any presentation skills. After properly presenting my thesis, dissertation in IIT, I had not given any presentation, much presentation afterwards. So here every day you have to give lecture, and I can tell you my plight that for preparing the very first lecture, because you are going to give it to the most intelligent engineers in India who are selected through UPS. You have to prepare for one lecture for 3 days just to deliver that lecture. And in the first lecture, you are really sweating thereafter because you don't know what questions will come. So that gave a great experience and what you call sharpened your tools, because type of questions used to be came and you have to think over to reply. And many times you are not able to reply immediately, but you reply after a day or two after thinking over the problem. And that analytical skill is developed even in the field of education where you are teaching to the students. And many of the students were experienced people from the railways, because we used to teach both the directly recruited as well as those who are working in the railways to update their knowledge. At that time, railway was a big spree to change over to concrete because mechanized maintenance, new types of points and crossing, so on and so forth. Third is that I got opportunity to conduct study tours of the students to various work sites all across the country. And that added to my knowledge immensely, because after seeing the project is very important, and your eyes should be always open when you are going to site. And the most important was UNDP project. When I joined, this project was in the offing, and Mr. N.K. Parsati came as the director, and he decided that let's push it. Pushing this type of project requires immense efforts. And in fact, I used to work, I remember, night 12 o'clock in the institute with my steno to prepare the reports, prepare syllabus for this, because development of bridge faculty. The spelling is wrong here, not faulty, faculty. Nothing happened faulty there. So it was a $1 million project wherein UNDP was to give us advanced computer systems. They were to give us the laboratory, entire laboratory setup, partly by a counterpart money and partly by them. And also library and getting faculty from abroad to develop faculty in India, and also send officers from India to develop them as bridge faculty when they come back and work in the institute. I am happy to tell you that all these objects were fulfilled in a matter of 3 years by very meticulous planning and the strictness with which Mr. N.K. Parsati implemented this project. In fact, the selection for the 12 officers who were to go abroad was so stringent that he used to sit with me to see how they have done in the different courses in Pune over the years, what is their field experience, what is the report of their chief engineers, and first of all, whether they're postgraduates or not. So that is how we went around and selected those 12 golden men who produced great things in railways in their career. And they, in fact, pushed forward the bridge technology to a great extent in the Indian railways. In fact, they came back and some of them worked as faculty also. This was my tenure in Pune. This was the very first bridge, people don't know. Very first segmental construction was in railways. And this was under the direction of Mr. Sridhar, who happened to be additional chief engineer in Southern Railway at Chennai at that time Madras. I had taken one of my bridges to Chennai. And being from railways, we could move anywhere without any problem. We had a separate coach. So we had not planned for this. We were to see some bridges near Arur, near Madurai. But then he told me, I had a meeting with him. He was a very young officer in a small chamber. And he called me and he said, that's the most wonderful site and you must take the students there and I will organize. This was Arur Kumpalam Bridge near Kochi, a very first segmental bridge constructed way back in 1985. In ULTP, as Priya said, I visited so many projects, and one of the most important was the segmented construction of Sunshine Skyway in Florida, which is 1,200 feet span single plane of cable, which was designed by one French designer who designed Roton Bridge, Muller, John Muller. He had designed this bridge. A very wonderful project, and we went there during its construction. I must recall an experience which we had in America, because when the fellows, 8 fellows were to land in the first trip, and we went by the same flight, same time in the UNDP office. And first I went up as a team leader to meet the director of UNDP DTCD, Mr. Jackie Radifera. And he asked me how you have come, whether you are all right or not. You have come alone or what? I said, no, I am not alone. All the 8 people have come. Jackie Radifera just jumped on his chair. He said, I don't believe that from India people can be so punctual. And I felt very bad, because that is what is the image we ourselves create. And that is what created a great impression on them. And they went to any length to organize any type of thing I used to demand. And therefore we were distributed to 2 universities. Yeah. Yes.
Sorry, can I just interrupt with a question? You had
Yeah.
narrated an incident of where you went to their library and you picked out a few books, and those.
Yeah.
Can you just quickly narrate that incident? It's a phenomenal incident. So,
Yeah. Thereafter we went to the training. We had 8 months of academic training in 2 universities. 4 people in one, 4 people in another. And then we had a field training where we have the Sunshine Skyway Florida DOT. Then we went to Caltrans, California Transportation at Sacramento, where we had 2 weeks training with Sacramento. And I met their chief, Bob Cassano. And they had organized proper lectures for us so that we know what they are doing in seismic design, what they are doing for durability of structure, monitoring of structure, all those topics. And they used to publish beautiful books on each of these subjects. They had a good amount of funding. So at the end of the course, like on foundation also, they had great books, how to do the geotechnical, how to interpret, and they had a lot of nomographs where a site engineer can directly see and interpret. He had not to go every time back to the design engineer and ask him how to do this and how to do that. So at the end of the course, I said I had selected some 20 books, and I requested him whether I can take them or I'll have to pay for that or something. So Bob Cassano said, no, for you there's no payment. You can just take it free, and I will give you a box. Please pack it in that. So I said, okay, give me the box. So I packed, and I started taking it away along with me to the hotel. So he said, where are you taking? So I said, yeah, back to India. I'll take it with me. He said, why with you? I mean, you have to travel so much still. How can you carry this box on flights and here and there? Don't worry. Just write down your address, give it to my secretary, and I will see that it lands in India before you land. And he himself all that information, which was available to me at EDCM before I landed after the training, because that was the last part of training. So that is what, to the extent they can go, if you show the interest, and that is what Chinese did on them. Chinese did so much of work that at that time Chinese students used to be there, and they used to work right up to 1 o'clock at night in the universities. And that is how they sucked out the whole knowledge. And now they are showing them the eyes that now we are there. So that is what, if you show interest, they show interest. If they think that you have come for just sightseeing or something, they will organize you accordingly.
that's a fantastic anecdote, sir.
The great thing experience I had about pre-tension girders, which came handy in coconut. In fact, this was, I think, in West Virginia, precasting car plant in West Virginia, where they used to manufacture precast girders for bridges, 60 feet, 80 feet, 100 feet, on standard designs of DOT. And you have to just telephone and order. I want 80 feet HS80, HS40 or whatever, loading. And they are just available. They'll be put in the trailer and sent to your site. So that was the great advantage of standardization. We think that in pre-tension, we can't give profile. But here is an example where a profile is given by a deflector, which is attached to the base. You can see there at this point. And the cable gets deflected. So the problem of that type was avoided, particularly for longer spans. And once it is cast, this thing is released. So the cable remains there, already embedded. Now coming to the most important tenure in my life. Now when the Coconut Railway Corporation was to be established, not that time established, but it was decided to execute this project in a POP mode. That company to be formed, consisting of 4 partners, that is Ministry of Railways, State Government of Maharashtra, Goa, Karnataka and Kerala, 5 partners. And the shareholding was decided. But Mr. Sridharan, being the member engineering at that time, started building up the organization immediately when he was in the post. And he selected the initial team, in which I was lucky to be there. Because Sridharan's method was that he used to inquire with all the champions where you have worked, what is your background. So he picked me up for the design and planning of the Coconut Railway project. And that is how I landed in Coconut Railway. There also goes a story that this happened on, I think, 4th August of 1990. And Sridharan had retired, I think, on 31st July. And he did not become MD that time. He was one-man expert committee, OMEC. So George Fernandez was the minister, and he used to issue direct orders from his office that so and so to be posted in Coconut Railway to be relieved immediately. I happened to be in Pune giving some visit as a visiting faculty that day. Although I was senior divisionist in Bombay Centre, looking after the entire assets of Bombay division in terms of track between Mumbai and Vaira, and also the buildings, etc. I suddenly got a call from my divisional railway manager that you are required back immediately. But I had finished my lecture during lunchtime. So I thought some problem must have arisen with the track or some accident must have happened, because railway such call happens only when there is an accident. So I immediately went by Deccan Express, and he said, as soon as you come to the office, whatever time. So I went at, I think Deccan Express lands at 7:30. I immediately went to Bombay Centre. So he was sitting. So I said, what happened? So he said, this is the order, and I'm asked to deliver you immediately. So you please, your handing over, your letter is ready. I have told my student, you just sign and walk out. But I said, what about handing over this? I said, that you don't worry, you are in Mumbai. So you come back whenever you got time and explain to your colleague what all things are to be seen. So that is how I was relieved, and next morning I had to report in Central Railway, because Central Railway was looking after that time, that I have reported. And that telegram has to be sent by GM to the minister that so and so is reported. So that is how the count used to be taken. And we were, I think, 4 people who started this operation. And that was in a small room in Churchgate, where Dr. Sridharan used to sit in one chair, other 3 in other 3 chairs, and one typist was staying over. So that is how the whole operation started. And we used to do everything, right from making tender conditions to everything from the beginning of the. So that is the story. And that time kind of we became partially what you call outcast from the railways, because railways did not like that such big projects should be given to a company and somebody is going to encroach upon that railway. So it was a very difficult time to start from zero. Now, as
So
you
can
know,
I ask a question here? Just a small question.
Yeah, go
Now,
ahead.
the period that you're talking about can happen to anybody who wants to start an enterprise, whether it's going to become big or whether it's going to become small. So there are a lot of fears, lot of anxieties of treading into the unknown, literally. So
Yes.
was it, I mean, emotionally, what kind of experiences were you faced with every day? And what was the bonding that you had at this very crucial time, 4 of you, 5 of you sitting in an office? Can you just narrate the kind of typical day that you used to have in office?
Actually, my railway colleagues who must be in this audience must be knowing that how much paraphernalia we have got as a senior divisional engineer or divisional officer. So one day you are just ejected and you are having nobody with you. You are absolute zero. You are all alone. So that's the first feeling. But in fact, working with Dr. Sridharan, one advantage is that he really motivates you to do the work. So when you discuss with him, it gives you some kind of energy that yes, we'll be able to do that. So many people thought that this will never happen and we'll go back to the railways in a matter of 2-3 months. This all will just fizzle out. That was their, that is what they used to think. And every time I used to meet them sometime on Sundays in our colony, and they used to say, when are you coming back? I said, no, no, we are not going to come back. It will happen. And we passed through a lot of difficulties because after that the government changed within few months and George Fernandez went away. So that time also, the sanctity of the company was maintained, and that was the idea of George Fernandez, to form a company so that nobody can stop it. If it is the railways, they just stop the tap. The fund will not be allocated, and that's the end of the project. But here, since the company was formed, state governments had agreed and signed. One party could not go out. All the 5 parties have to go out, and no state government will agree once it has been signed. So it became a totally kind of, everybody was changed, and then they were asked to run.
Yes.
Now the Coconut Railway, when we come to the challenges, first of all, getting a team itself is a problem. Nobody is willing to get transferred from railways and come to a company and work in a kind of a company situation because of the privileges which are attached to railway job in the proper railway system. So everybody was to be given a house. We were having house of railways. We were lucky because we are in Mumbai. But other people who come from outside, what will happen to them? We have to rent houses. I located one new building in Vashi because Chidran said that we are not going to remain in Mumbai. Our office will be across the creek. I don't want, I want a completely new type of organization with new type of culture. So we have to be away from the existing cultures. So he said we'll have an office at Belapur. That is how we bought an office in Belapur from Sidco, 2 floors, which was bought in flat 1 month. You won't believe that. And I handed over personally the check to Sidco just to occupy that space. That was the speed. Because today he says tomorrow it should happen. That was the kind of thing. So we moved to Belapur and I had to have some 24 houses. So there was one building of BRC scientists in Vashi just constructed. So I found that out and I met them in TIFR. They were TIFR scientists. So I said, why to go through agent? You are government, we are government. So let us do the deal ourselves and you get them together. So there was a society secretary who got them together. And I remember that we signed the agreement in Baba Auditorium with those 24 scientists in the month of September 1990. And we got it in 1 day, 24 flats. And we assured that don't worry, we will construct our own colony and we'll shift after our project, when the project gets completed. So we have no risk that since we are government, we will file cases and things like that. So that was the level of confidence we had built up. Coming to Coconut Railway, many may not be knowing that the entire alignment was reviewed after the company took over. Original survey was 840 kilometer length between Roha and Mangalore, where they had 1 in 100 gradient on line, 1 meter in 100 meter, and they had 4-degree curvatures, 400 meter. Having worked in Irisen gave a big advantage to me to apply mine and decide upon new parameters for a much higher speed than what was envisaged earlier and make it more fuel efficient. So we decided to have 1200 meter as the minimum radius, which will allow a speed of 160 kmph unhindered, and also have entirely concrete slipper track, including bridges. And the third thing was gradient flattened from 1 in 100 to 1 meter in 150, which will not need any pushing locos and things like that. The train can move without pushers by single locomotive. So that is how the whole project was redone in terms of survey in a matter of 6 months over at least something like 600 kilometers, because both sides was flat terrain that we started the work. So there we got advantage of reduction of 100 kilometer. So 840 became 740, but the tunnel length went from 24 kilometer, I think earlier 24 kilometer in the earlier surveys, to 81 kilometer, and bridges went to 24 kilometer. But we said, okay, tunneling will accept the challenge. We had the longest tunnel of 6.5 kilometer and all that, so we accepted that challenge. And we are mandated to complete the project in 5.5 years from the date of start. That time photo, when I was working in that office, I must tell you, That time we had wide area system. We had taken dedicated lines from DOT, and we had wide area network, what we talk of internet today, and we had transfer facility of files and all those things established within first year, and that is how everybody had computers. This is the alignment, one of the most difficult terrains most of you must have seen.
Yes.
Organized structure, first thing was lean but effective. Trust, teamwork, time frame, and delegation. Delegation is the most important word which doesn't happen in India. Everybody wants power to himself. Sridharan said no. First of all, the chief engineers will be in the field. So all the chief engineers were posted in 7 locations along the alignment, from where they used to operate, and they were given sufficient powers, financial powers, within their zones to decide upon contracts, decide upon so many things, land acquisition, things like that. Then as I told you, we had complete computer networking, fax, and dedicated telephone, not dependent on DOT. Modern technology not for its own sake, but to optimize construction and OMN costs, just not for the sake that I constructed cable stayed bridge on the ground. That was not done. This was the very first inauguration at Roha in the month of September 1990. And this photo especially is important because these are the 4 pillars, I call it. Mr. George Fernandez, Mr. Sharad Pawar, Mr. Madhu Dandavate, and Mr. Sridhar. They were the 4 pillars because it was Sharad Pawarji who immediately agreed to this idea of forming a company with partnership of state government. And that is how the other state governments had no other alternative but to say okay and go ahead. Now the most important item.
One question. Can I ask one question before we move on? Just a simple question. You mentioned that to have competent professionals at all the various locations, you employed competent engineers who would look after their particular territory. So obviously you must have put an ad in the paper, or what was the modus operandi of appointing these engineers, and why did they select to come out of their comfort zone and work in totally unfamiliar territory?
Essentially, the levels of chief engineers and deputy chief engineers, he got people from railways who were highly experienced in construction because he knew the Janampatri of each person, having sat as the head of the railways. So he scanned that and he got the people who have already done, like few of the chief engineers had worked in the construction of third Ghat line between Mumbai and Pune, and third Ghat line between Igatpuri and Kasala. So he knew everyone, and he had worked also in Central Railway. So that is how he got people. Then Southern Railway, having worked there, he knew the best people in Southern Railway. Because normally people like to work in areas to which they belong. So they have got a greater motivation. So in India, we had all Maharashtrian chief engineers. In South, we had Keralite, who had great attachment to that area. So that is how probably must be in his mind that have the people who have got attachment to that area.
Yes.
And we had best engineers from all the departments, because it's not only engineering, it's signal and telecommunication is important backbone. We had one very competent person from Pune College, Mr. Rajadev, who was officer in Western Railway. We had very competent electrical engineer, Mr. I.D. Chopra. Down the line, we had Mr. P.T. Bade, B.R. Kulkarni, S.G. Kelkar, Raja Ram, and then we had Raju and and Nambudri at the end. So all these people were golden men, so as to say. Yes. And they could do these jobs within no time. And they were great, very decisive people in terms of problems at site. Because one of the principles was that if the problem comes in the morning, by evening the solution should go. And that is what I was always the sword. Because he used to ask in the evening whether it has gone or not gone, or what's the problem, come down and discuss. Because he said that contractor is part of your team. And if contractor fails, I'll take you that you have failed. I won't listen to all the nonsense. So the contractor being a part of your team, you have to give a decision. If you have a problem, then I am prepared to come to the site. And that is how we used to go to the site so many times. Overnight, he will decide, let's go tomorrow there. That's all. And in the morning, we are on the way. Even by flight at 6 o'clock, many times. That was the speed because The company has got such wide powers. In railways, you have to take so many people's approval just to travel by air. That was not so. So the full advantage of that was taken. Then all long lead items he said we must tackle first. And therefore, very first contract which was finalized was concrete sleepers. And that is where concrete was greatly used. And first time that we use IRST 40 cement, which is better than today's, it was better than grade 43 of that time, which also came later. So the IRST 40 was railway specification of cement for concrete sleeper, where you use M50 grade concrete for those sleepers. And it was, as I told you, we decided not to use a single wooden sleeper. Entire line is on concrete sleeper. There's no wooden sleeper. And we established 4 plants, of course, the contractors, because we had to produce something like 16 lakh sleepers in a matter of 4 years. And at the end of the day, it is the sleeper which opens the line, not the amendment. Sleeper and rail. So that is what was organized first, because he had railway experience where everything is ready and sleeper is not happening. So you just can't do it.
Okay.
The other thing is most critical is bridge and tunnel and the land. As far as the land was concerned, you will be surprised to know that he took a very radical decision that where we are acquiring the land, we'll pay for their houses first ourselves as a company, and we'll pay for the trees, because tree has value in coconut. Like one coconut tree, what is its present day value? Or one mango tree, what is present day value? Then house per square foot, what he will spend to construct a new house. What is the value of his property today? All that was assessed, and the chieftains were empowered to pay that money through drop directly from the company and not to wait for the collector. That is how we built up confidence amongst them that we are going to pay, and nobody created. I think there were hardly any cases of handing over of land, and everybody gave a consent. And the important thing is bridges, where I was, of course, directly involved, because that was a very great responsibility. And when I opened my office of planning and design in that space which we had acquired from Sidco, a part of that was design office. The first sentence he uttered was, Limaye, this is the most important place. Planning and design is the nerve center. And if anything fails, the project fails. And today you will find that it is this area where we are failing time and again. Just because there is a hurry, we are doing planning in 1/4 the time, and then we are doing the project in 4 times, or 4 times the time required. Because we landed problem at every step. And that is what I told you, that in Pune Metro, I have seen that those problems are weeded out right at stage 1. Therefore, we don't have much problem. And in spite of not much private land being acquired till today, zero practically, our project has never stopped even for a single day. Because we have planned the alignment or revised the alignment in such a way that nobody comes in the way. And that is the art. Now, the bridges is the mostly, when I went to Goa, in fact, a surprising story that people said, we said we'll complete in 4 years. They said, पास वाला bridge देख रहे हो क्या? इसमें 15 साल लगेगा. आप कैसे कहते हो 4 साल में हो जाए? Whenever you see, when the time comes, we'll talk, not now. And therefore, the first decision we took is standardization. Very first decision was, we will design the thing, whether ourselves or through consultant, but our concepts will be implemented. It is not design and build. No contract in Coca-Cola was design and build. It was a BOQ contract, and therefore we can order him that you make this change and he will do it because I am going to pay for it. Today, what happens in design build lump sum? The contractor tries to cut corner, obviously, and he will show you some codal provision where he is allowed to do certain things which you may not be happy. So the entire instruction comes from you, and that's very important. And the project time is reduced substantially. The stages are gone because I am giving the approved and signed design, which he has to go and implement. That's all. And if any problem comes, I am there to solve. It's my responsibility to solve, not here. It's right from foundation and everything. So that was a change, and that had that put great responsibility on my team, that we had to produce the goods in time. Although we went ahead with the contract, because BOQ contract, you can go ahead without having the final design in your place. And then we did design standardization, 10 meter span, 20 meter span, 30 meter span, like that. And we designed standardize all PSC spans, all precast. That was another rule. That all superstructure is precast and launched. That condition was put in the contract. So that our girder casting starts along with the bridge. And we have got latitude that if something goes wrong in casting, we just reject the girder and our work doesn't get stopped. And every contractor has got the wherewithals. So if one contractor fails, another one can be plugged in within no time because he has the same wherewithals. And second was also substructure which are highly standardized, 60 meter height, 16 to 25, beyond 25, like that. So first was single circular, mostly up to 16 meter height. Beyond 16 meter, hollow rectangular, hollow circular. Beyond that was tapered hollow. And hollow pier was first time adopted in India. So the first we come track structure uniform, which gives the advantage that you have got a same track on the bridge as on the approach. So you can continue continuous welded rail. Entire thing on Konkan Railway is long welded, there's no joint. There's no pitch plated joint, right? And this gives a great advantage in increase in speed. These are the way the whole thing has been done. You can see that all girders, this 30 meter girder on the bottom is a box girder, weighing 330 tons, again launched, precast and launched. Here the piers on Shastri Bridge 2.8 meter diameter hollow with a solid portion at the bottom 8 meters. The other bridge I think is Pune Centre, which has got rectangular hollow 4 meter by 2.8 meter hollow rectangular uniform with a wall thickness of 450 mm. So you can imagine how much concrete must have been saved. And if there was a carbon plated, I think Konkan Railway would have come free. The next one is how innovation can be used in terms of difficult times. This is a bridge in Terepol on the border of Maharashtra and Goa. And also one more Chapora bridge that's next to it, and Terepol and Galjibag, South Goa, where the captain of port suddenly said that your 18 meter clearance between the pile cap is not okay for me. I am going to introduce navigation here. And because of our philosophy, the girders were already cast. So that point in time, he said, no, I want 26 meter minimum between the pile caps.
Okay.
So then I thought over it. Then I thought that why not have H type of piers with a central portion of 12 meters. So I stretched 20 meter to 32 meters and I get 26 meter clear between the pile caps. That is how we have gone these bridges, where you will find that the piers are H-shaped. And again, this is possible due to moldability of concrete, that I can give any shape to concrete. That is the thing we want to understand, that concrete gives us full flexibility for play with any shape. It depends only on the mold what you create. Then I pre-tension girder, how to be produced at site. So APCONS came up with a great idea, Mr. Joshi, that we'll have prefab casting bed consisting of U sections of concrete which are assembled together at site by pre-stress. There are 11 sections. After casting, they can be taken to the next site. And it is inside this that the girder is cast. And we have got, that acts like a reaction frame also, just like we do steel reaction frame. And the cycle time was 48 hours. These were 20 meter girder, each weighing about 78 tons. And that is how they were produced and put in the yard and simply launched. And you can see the finish of that Savitri Bridge, which also stands just like that today, after 25 years. And how open it is for waterway clearing. This created a lot of dispute, because 1 year Mahad, heavy flood came like it happens every year. This also here also it happened. And people said that this bridge has caused the flood. So that time Sharad Pawarji was the chief minister. He immediately phoned Sridharan Saab, and Sridharan Sir said that I will depute Limaye to explain it, because he was not very good at, he didn't know Marathi, let's say. So he said, we'll discuss at site. So we fixed up a place from where this bridge can be seen and the river can be seen. And he said at 10:30 on so and so date. So and so date I went at 10:30. He came exactly at 10:30 from Mumbai, and I showed him that, see this bridge. First of all, this is 10 kilometers downstream of Mahad. And if you add waterways of all your bridges on the upstream, you double of that. So then he said, let's see. We went to that. Then we went to the rest house where he explained to his party people, because I have seen and this is that, and let Limaye tell. So he told me, you tell. Then I told them, and explained to them. Then he said, okay, now you people are convinced, so let's go to the people. So there was a meeting of the citizens in the hall. So he went there and then he said, there you don't speak, I will speak. So he spoke for 5 minutes and he finished the job. He said that I have seen, it's okay. And apart from that, I must tell you that your river is full of sand. Please allow sand mining. Because it was a port in Shivaji's time. And today even a small boat cannot come to your place. That is causing a problem. So river will come to your city. So this is the way the girders were planned. There are 3 tea girders. For first time we had tea girders. Mostly everything had to be precast, and only this gap of 200 mm was cast at side. Again from hanging from top the shuttering, and then casting this and making the full day. It was the first time that we provided footpath along the bridge to have safety of gangmen. First time we did that. So we have footpath on every bridge. All the foundations are pile foundations for the first time on a project of this magnitude, because I had great confidence after doing a lot of works in Western Railway, even in scorable beds. So we had complete pile foundations, all the bridges, except for I think 11 wells in Juari and Mandvi, where we had special situations and longer spans. The hollow rectangular pier, basically the inspiration came from Lincoln Viaduct, North Carolina, on which we attended numerous presentations when we were in USA. And this really impressed me that they are doing it. And this they did in an environmentally sensitive zone between Shenandoah and Smoky Mountains in Virginia, in North Carolina. And the whole bridge is constructed from the top. You won't believe that. The whole bridge is constructed from the top. They never entered the jungle except for the foundation. So this is what I told you already. Hollow rectangular, hollow circular, various shapes were developed. These are the viaducts. We did by first time slip form. We said that if chimneys can be done by slip form, why not piers? And we did slip form where the speed became 3 times. And we have designed the mixes accordingly so that we get the speed of about 24 centimeters per hour, shift of the slip form. And we trained contractors in that. We also maintain the beauty of the landscape. You can see the Shanti Viaduct, one of the most beautiful what I like at Vaibhavari, where we adopted buried abutments. I had seen them in America. You might have seen those who have gone to US, that mostly abutments are buried. Now here what happens is that river is very small, but the valley is large. And I need not cross it by viaduct all the time. So we constructed part of that as embankment and part of that as a bridge across the river. And where we brought in, where we brought in the embankment right up this point, and this is a buried abutment, which has only 3 pillars like this. And this is buried under the earth. So most of the viaducts in Konkan are having buried abutments. Okay. And we have got beautiful greenery which is developed on the top. And in fact, today if you see, you will not find that it's embankment or jungle. The first time you got a bridge in India, I must say this, and this inspiration came from Los Angeles, a Century Expressway we had visited, where there was a what you call heavy axle load railway line on the top, which was to go above the expressway, where they adopted this kind of U-girders. The main, now today everybody talks about it that U-girder developed by Istra for metros. It is not so. This was there earlier, but we have become slaves again to foreign countries, and that's very bad. It doesn't go well for Atmanirbhar Bharat. We must be proud of what we have done. And these girders are standing like brand new today. U-girders, designed by Mr. Atul Bove of Mumbai, because I had some designs I brought from Caltran, which were transferred here. How to do it, how the methodology. So we have got, I think this was 20 meters. We also had 30 meters at Narwada. We had 4 locations. The advantage is that the embankment height goes down by 3 meters. And we are on approach Kumta town, and we had land acquisition problems. So 3 meters down means nearly 20 meters of strip is saved on the land. 20 meters of strip is saved. This is a beautiful framed ROB, which costed at that time only 9 lakhs rupees. So I found out that providing a bridge and level crossing, the break-even point was about 15 lakhs, manning rate, etc., etc. So this bridge came in 9 lakhs just because we framed the whole thing. There was no simply support. That is again, we can call it integral bridge, but integral bridge in railways again for the first time. Like I showed you when Gammon did it in 1930s, why can't we do it today? And Dr. Noori of SP was very much interested in pushing this technology. And I also said, why not go ahead? Please design. And this is 14 meters slab span integrated with a pier, which is only 850 millimeter thickness and a height of something like 16 meters. And I think 3.5 meter wide. Yeah. So you can see how much material can be saved. And again, we use high strength concrete at that time. That time high strength was M45 and things like that. Today, I think in metro it is M70. Then 3D abutment for places and marine clay. This is Terepol, not Terepol, Galjibag. Galjibag in South Goa, where we had total marine clay and we had to construct an abutment. Now this abutment is like a building frame, and bottom there is a single piles under each of these columns. So with this idea, the number of piles came to half, and when you fill up the soil, the pressure balances. So in engineering, don't attract unwanted forces. That is the principle.
Yes.
We try to construct structures where we attract unwanted forces. Supposing buried abutment, you have a solid abutment, then your cost will become 10 times. That is 1/10 of the cost of a solid abutment. This is also 1/3 of the cost of normal abutment. And here, these cavities is going to spill through, the earth spills through. So it doesn't attract force. So how to overcome force is the structural engineering issue where it is unwanted by you. You are unnecessarily creating. Here one side reaction is balanced by another side. Another thing we forgot about the arch, something which is very sad. This is a simple parabolic arch without reinforcement with thickness of I think 70 centimeters for 60 centimeters for 5 meter parabolic shape and high overburden. In case of high overburden, we calculate by normal method RCC slabs where there is no place to put concrete. So much of reinforcement comes there because you can imagine if there is a 15 meter overburden, then the load straight away becomes 15 into 2, that is 30 tons per square meter. And for that, you can imagine how much steel will be required. I mean, instead of concrete, you only have steel, better. So here this arch has no steel inside. Steel is there only for temperature. That's all. And these are standing like brand new today because I had seen such stone arches in Kota division, which look like brand new after 80 years. Nothing had happened. Then this is again an open spandrel arch similar to the Tista Bridge. Again, Dr. Noori designed, SPA, wonderful, standing very well, 30 meter. Now coming to important bridges, curd. Why not have curd bridge? That is the question in the mind of the people, and they try to unnecessarily hit the river at right angles. Hitting the river at right angles is okay when you have solid concrete piers, which create obstruction. When you have got RCC, why follow that rule? You have got completely open type of piers here. The bridge is on curve. This is the longest bridge, the Sharavati, 2 kilometer long, constructed in 3 years at that time with precast, pre-tensioned, I think, yeah, pre-tensioned 30 meter PSC box, pre-tensioned. And this is again 1.4 kilometer long Kali Nadi bridge, 30 meter spans,
Wow.
precast box girder, box girder, yes. And you can see the straight line. And that time you didn't have GPS, huh? Mind you. All these curves and all that, no GPS. Conventional T2 theodolite. And tunnel, it becomes more serious because if you go something wrong, then you have it. There also it was T2. Now, Panvel Nadi Viaduct concept. Why this bridge is continuous span and why implemented launching? The inspiration came from La Roche Viaduct of France, when I was professor, I had bought this film, and I used to show this film often to the students. Incremental launch girder in TGV line, which runs at 250 km/h that time. So the idea is that in a simply supported system, fixed free, you transfer the railway's launching force to this pier, and practical for 20-meter loco, the tractive effort is 50 tons. So 50 tons gets transferred here. As the age increases, you have problem. Moment. So in order to minimize that, suppose I make this continuous and put a sliding bearing here with Teflon and stainless steel. Then your coefficient of friction goes down to 1%. Even with factor of safety, say 5%, worst condition. Then also it is limited to weight of girder multiplied by 5%. So if you have got, say, weight of girder in train, which is not much. So if you have got a girder of 30 meter, the weight is 300 tons, 300 tons, 5%, that is the force. So it comes down to 15 tons. So you can imagine the economy. And when you come to tall piers, this is a problem. Now in Panvel Viaduct, the pier height was up to the foundation top was 64 meters. So you can imagine if I apply 30 meter, 40, this is a 40 meter girder. If I apply that, then what will be the moment and what will be the size of the pier at the bottom? So this was the idea that we should have continuous span with all floating, all what you call sliding bearings, and fix it on a abutment which is rigid because it's very short. Abutment is hardly 10 meter, as well as the pier of 60 meter. So the whole deck of 425 meters is fixed here. And when the train passes, majority of launching force is going to get transferred here, and is designed for that. So this has got again end spans are 30 and 40 because continuous span philosophy, end span supported. And many people were thinking kaise hoga, but this bridge was completed in 24 months by Indian contractor L&T. First time they did in their life with great accuracy. And this is hollow octagonal tapered with 24 jacks. This was accomplished to compress it and take it up. And wall thickness was, I think, 350 mm. And today also you can enter the bottom and see the top hole, the bottom level. So this is like Qutub Minar. And the launching is done from one end. So every 20-meter segment is pre-cast and attached to the earlier segment. So, but when you see the final bridge, you will not see the joint. That was the accuracy of casting. This line is absolutely straight for 425 meters. So that's what I said India can produce, and that's what BBC said. This is the bridge. And Japanese chief, when he come to Coconut, he asked me which foreign company did it. I said no foreign company, it's India. But today we at the drop of the hat, we get the tower fabricated for signature bridge from China. And this bridge got many awards, or to my team, to the team of contractors, consultants, which on their behalf I am receiving. And this is ACI Maharashtra Chapter Award for the best constructed bridge in India in that year. The Juari bridge was the most challenging assignment, and choice of spanning arrangement is very important. This had 120-meter navigational channel, and therefore we had to have two steel girders, which are 124.2 meter, the longest span on Indian railways at that time. And that also was not railway standard design. We designed in such a way that the compression in the top cord is more or less constant. And the approach we have built up, like in Florence, you must have seen the bridge across the river in Florence, where we build up the span as we go to the center. And this has got a clearance of meter, as well foundations in the central part, 5 foundations in the approach. All these are on well foundations. So the challenge was to put the girder there. So this is again precast concrete box, 53-meter span, weighing 800 tons, which is transported on a barge, specially designed for that. We casted at Juari site and took it to Mandvi site for Mandvi River and launched it here for the purpose of Juari. Done by, of course, my great friend Kashalkar, who must be listening to this. credit goes to him. Then the wheels were prefabricated on the shore, the bottom part, the cutting edge, and then it was put on the dock barge, mounted on the dock barge, and again taken to the site and lowered in there. And then the well was built on the top. So no island could be constructed because of the environmental situation. So it was done like that. No island was made. And this whole girder, 124 meter span with 18-meter height, was assembled at site, but it was fabricated in the railway workshop. I'm proud to say that, because contractors didn't come forward with proper conditions. We went as a single tender to Central Railway, and they fabricated it 3 girders in a matter of 1 year, where we supplied the steel. And it was so accurate that it never happened that a component did not fit. So this is how it was assembled on the shore, pushed, a big operation, most difficult in my life. To push these girders onto a jetty and then lift it by this barge mounted crane with 46-meter overhang like a bird, because we use the same crane what we used to use for the concrete girder. And this is the way. You can't imagine this, a 400-feet girder being carried on this barge, towed to the side, and then lifted by the 4 towers here.
Wow.
And this is how finally it comes. There are many more slides, but it's a separate subject. I won't deal with that. But this is how it was made. And for the
again,
first
one
time,
question. Yes, this entire operation must have literally been a heart-stopping exercise, if I may call it that.
yeah, the first operation happened on Mandvi Bridge, whereas I, as a chief engineer, was sitting from 5th of May to 21st of May 1995. And we used to sit with Mr. Kashalkar and Mr. Joshi and all the teams for, I think, nearly 18 hours every day, 18 hours, right up to night 12 o'clock. And again, we were back at 7 or something after going to the rest house, which was far away. So that is how this operation happened, and it was hard stopping because we had to release the river on 22nd of May. That was the condition of Captain of Port. Because after monsoon starts, we can't do it. And 22nd of May, if we wouldn't have finished, then 6 months we have got finished. And entire timetable would have got upset because same was to be used in July.
Yes.
And a lot of heartbreak that I will write a separate story. I mean, it was not easy by any stage of it.
Yes.
And other important thing I forgot to tell you that this whole project was stopped in Goa sector from Tivim to Bali because of environmental reasons. Despite that, the contractors did not leave the site.
Wow.
Because initial thing I didn't tell you, the first time in India started the practice of paying 75% bill in 72 hours. What contractor produces has to be paid in 72 hours, 75%. And remaining 25% is left for checking. First time we introduced third-party quality control by putting agencies to check our work. And if there's a criticism, we used to take it as good for us, and we used to correct the things.
So
Now,
can I
this
also ask? Yeah. Sorry, can I also ask that at such times, generally, not only this side but all the bridges that you did, can I also say that because of your commitment or the cooperation of the political figures who were part of this, because of all this, there is a strong motivation and a zeal amongst the even the laborer who works there. Is this part of the process?
Yes, there are first of all out support for this project across the party lines. And nobody resisted this except for Goa because of some other reasons which are well known to the people. In fact, I told you one story about people must have gone to Karmali station. Karmali station, some people in Goa didn't want because of certain self-interest by saying that it's too close to Old Goa Church. So one day Sridharan said, let's drop this station. So I told the COM that if we drop it, how do we run the trains? Because then we have got block section of 26 kilometers, where a train will take 1 hour or a goods train will take nearly 1 hour to cross. So nothing else can move. So I said for operation reason, we require a crossing station. So we made a note and put up to his name and said that let's say that it's a service station so that we are able to cross the trains. Otherwise, we won't be able to run the trains. So he said, okay, let's go ahead with that. But later on, the political scenario changed and they started demanding the station. And of course, it was available. We had already planned for it. We only let the track, not the other paraphernalia. that became one of the most popular stations because that was midway between Ponda and Panji. Otherwise, somebody would have to go to Vaira or other down Madgaon and come back by auto. So that auto or taxi or whatever. So this became the best station in Goa, and that is Karmai Lake, where again there were environmental issues. But you can see today that there are no environmental issues.
So there are two questions which I would like to take here. One question is Mr. Apte has asked, kindly elaborate on the conical pile cap. And there's one more question which is sort of related where Mr. Kulkarni asks, there are 178 concrete bridges on Konkan Railway. Are these bridges being monitored now for durability? So the first question
Yes.
is a little detail on conical cap. And the second question is, are these bridges being monitored? Before we go on to the next tunnel section.
Okay. Normally in a well foundation, suppose you are using a 5-meter diameter well for that single column, and your column single circular, when it is there, it will punch at the center. So the entire load comes to the center of that circular plate or slab, and that causes high bending moment. So we thought, why not optimize by putting a conical well cap on the top of which will sit the circular pier. So it goes in compression. In cone, the load coming from the top will go in compression. That was the idea, and that was how it was conceived and designed. Cone, of course, inside is not hollow because normally we fill up the well also. So this was filled up conically with sand and all that. And then the cone was cast on the top of that form, you can say, what you call sacrificial form, you can call it. That is how it was. So the idea was that how to minimize concrete that time because cement was so scarce. Then the second was you asked about what was the second question?
The second question was Mr. Vijay Kulkarni has. This question was asked by Mr. Vivek Apte from Ahmednagar, and the second question asked by Vijay Kulkarni is: there are 178 concrete bridges on Konkan Railway. Are these bridges being monitored now for concrete durability also?
In fact, as Vijay, I think is my friend now, former president of IC. He knows that railway has got one of the strictest inspection schedules laid down for bridges. And every year, every bridge has to be inspected at assistant engineer's level and then seen by the divisional engineer and then seen by the chief engineer or chief bridge engineer, as the case may be. And then if there are any adverse reports or problems, then they have to be sorted out immediately. And then compliance report has to be given before the onset of monsoon. That is how it happens. But I am happy to tell you because I visited some bridges in 2015. Zuari Bridge I visited. They had some problem with the bearings for the steel girder, pot PTFE, which have been replaced now. And most of the bridges stood the test of time because we had provided proper drainage. We had given a lot of thought to every small detail. Like you see the footpath was not there. Then footpath has got a railing also, you can see in this slide. So gangmen are not put to any danger in the long bridge. Similarly, at the bottom we have got drain piles which drain the water. Between the two girders at the support we have got a gap between the girder ends, not the slab, of more than 2.4 meters. So one can enter onto the pier cap from the top and go around the bearings and look at the bearings. I think we have provided platforms also to inspect the bearings. Because mostly why neglect happens is that you have no access. If you have no access to the bearing, what you are going to inspect? So each bridge has got access. And in fact, I'm happy to tell you that the elastomeric bearings are just like brand new today. In fact, Commissioner of Railway Safety, when he came 2 years back, the chief had told me that he said, how your bearings are looking like brand new. That is the idea that if you have proper quality control, then things can survive. Everything happens because of slack quality control. Here the bearings, I know Mr. S.C. Gupta, chief engineer, he must be hearing this probably. Of Ratnagiri, he used to go himself to where the bearings used to get manufactured and he used to inspect right from raw material up to the final product, whether it is going as per the specs. And that is the final result, and that is what I will tell the young engineers, be serious about these things. I think Michelangelo said that trifles go into make for perfection. And that is very, very important. And we have forgotten about that because today there are several agencies. So everybody will think that somebody else will get it. but there is no somebody else. So things go bad at it.
There are two very quick questions that I'll take, and then we'll take a 1-minute break, actually. One question was, which Vinod Kumar has asked, you mentioned, sir, about not having GPS at that time, and everything was done by conventional theodolite and all that. His question is, what technology of survey and alignment was used to decide revised alignment which resulted in the reduction of length?
Technology, basically, the first thing was topo sheets prepared by Britishers. GTS, Great Trigonometrical Survey. In fact, we used to ponder over the sheets with Dr. Sridharan for hours and plot the alignment on that topo sheet, then go to the site and actually see whether it is there or not. And you will be surprised to know that even the GTS benchmarks of that time were intact. And
So,
based
sir, I
on
have a question. Yes. Sorry, I'll just interrupt one last time. I also had a doubt that when you, in 1992 or whatever, when you went there to do the research, actually personally went there, so there was no aerial survey of this entire territory at that time.
yeah, basically this topo sheet is an area survey, which is updated from time to time by Survey of India.
Yeah, we didn't have drones and all that, right? So aerial survey was not there.
No, aerial survey was not. There are a lot of defense restrictions, and you know in India what was there at that time.
Yes.
It was very restricted.
Yes, sir.
So
sir, should we
essentially-
take a 1-minute break and then we go on to the next section of tunnel? We can just.
Okay. Shall we go ahead or you want a break?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. So survey was done by conventional T2 theodolite, although that time I think E2 had come, electronic theodolite. But again, the systems were safe. One had to walk on the ground. Without that, you can't do this. Today, people don't even walk on the ground. And then they land in problem because ultimately one has to walk on the ground. Again, the first time circular vehicular tunnel, people think that it's metro which has done it. No, it was done. These segments are designed in India by us. These were erected by systems which are fabricated in India. And this is a 300-meter length of one tunnel at Honavar, near Sharavati. And the next is the funicular shape because our places were very high. So we had thought of this. And this is a funicular, multi-radius, so that you get compression all the time in the ring to the extent possible. And bottom is closed. And you can see the hole at the other end, even in this. Its total length is, I think, 1.3 kilometers. You can see in between shaft where the light is coming, and you can see the last hole. This is another standard tunnel. Section. In fact, we had standardized the tunnel designs. We didn't go to the consultant. We had standardized for each situation, and that is very important. Today, for everything we are running, hard rock, we are running to consultant. And they are giving such a kind of heavy design. Recently, I am involved in the Karwar tunnel, which we also made a tunnel there, which is absolute granite. And in granite, they are having some huge short-fitting, rock bolting, and heavy supports, which can stand by its own, like the Ghat line from Mumbai to Pune done in 1865, still standing well without all this paraphernalia. But today, just because some Himalayan terrain design is transplanted in hard rock, that is what is happening. And that is what under the name of foreign consultants, who do not know an inch of our land. And that is what basically perturbs me. This is a cutter head of channel tunnel. When I went there, it had come out to just completed and commissioned. This is again a tunnel ventilation modern system to operate the fans within the long tunnels of Konkan Railway. First time done in India. I had gone to Japan to see all these things, Sigan tunnel and all that. And they were transplanted and done indigenously by us in India, including, I think, manufacture of jet fans also Indian party came in. We were given the privilege of opening 161-kilometer tunnel section from Ratnagiri to Sawantwadi by Mr. Sridharan, because he said now the elections are there, you go and start. So we started the first passenger train. Myself, next to me is Mr. Dute, who is now Director General of IIBE, was my colleague in Konkan Railway. Then Mr. Shevre, who was the Chief Engineer. Mr. Panchal, Mr. Sonawane. On the right side is Mr. Balakrishna and so many other engineers. So I think first time it must have happened that without a politician, section was opened. And that 261 kilometer, not a small stretch, right from Ratnagiri to Sawantwadi.
So standing behind you are all the village people, or who are they? That crowd of people behind you, who are they?
On the engine, there's an engine behind us, and on that this must be at Vaibhavari, I think.
Okay.
People are the engine, and our people also are engineers. These young engineers whom we recruited at that time are now today top of the table. They are the GMs and AGMs in most of the metros and big projects. We had recruited two. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
amazed that you remember all their names. You remember the names of all these locations. Probably they are embedded in your mind, so you remember each detail of this journey.
Yeah, we used to work day and night, and sitting in Mumbai, I had to imagine what is happening there merely by photographs. And that to transmit it to fax. And this WhatsApp was not there that time. That would have created confusion probably.
Yes.
So many people would have sent. About the selection, I'll tell you. We interviewed 1,000 young engineers, graduated and I think 2 years experience. Three of us, committee of three of us, at various places in India, and we selected as assistant engineers 40, and as next level about 80. And thereafter also we continued to take them towards the bottom of the list. And I think totally practically must have been 200 at the end of the day. And they are today at the top of most of the railway metro projects and also railway projects, RVNL, so many things are happening. And many of them switched over to other departments like operating. At the end of the project, we had to absorb them. So we had given them the choice if they want to change their department. Railway has got several departments, so people can choose at that point in time. We had laid balusters track to our design over 24 kilometers in tunnels. That is again concrete. This is concrete slipper turnout, and the switch rail on the top is a thick web switch, not the normal what is used to see in railways. Where this photo is after, I think after 15 years, there's no wear on this nose. The wheel just takes, and this one made in Germany, this part. And this is a device which we devised by copying foreign designs by Mr. Raja Deksha, who was the chief signal and telecom engineer. So this works very well because longer and this thick web requires two drives. Instead of two drives, we have got one drive and we have got one spring device. Now this rail also there's a story because this geometry of this is very important when you put in CNC. And in India we never used to make this first of all. And whatever our design was there, which was not made because it requires special forged rail with thicker end and thinner back, and then they machine it out. So they wanted mathematics of this geometry, and we didn't have the geometry in terms of feeding it to CNC. So the German manufacturer BWG said that we want that. Without that, we won't be able to. So one Mr. Dandekar, a great track expert, the track expert rather I will say, who was working with me in Pune also and later on in Konkan. He and me sat for nearly 1 week to fix the geometry in mathematical terms. And one Sunday, we said Eureka, and we made it, and we faxed it to that fellow. And next day, his fax came directly to Dr. Sridharan. That hats off to your engineers. We have never seen hand calculations of this type.
Wow, wow.
The engineers don't feel that we are not competent. We are very much competent, and we can do it. And then we visited that plant also, and he was proud to show us how they are doing it. I mean, they just put the rail at other side. After I think 2 hours, the switch rail comes out, duly machined. That is the way they work. This is a beautiful Ratnagiri station with folded plate roof, illuminated. And we have got a memorial also here for those people who lost their lives during the project. I had maintained a list from day one on our computer systems, and I think there was 71, which is printed in the book also, the dream come true. And this was the idea which railway has implemented, I think, after 20 years. This came to my mind in 1994 when I crossed the Channel Tunnel from Dover to Calais on a freight train because freight operation had started. There they used to load the trucks in specially made wagons. These are not specially made. And cars also used to go. So we crossed along with one freight train. And then when I came back, I made a note immediately that why not have it in Konkan? Because that's the most, what you call, most suitable. Because every day you can find so many accidents on NH17.
Yes.
Now whatever is his name. So I wrote a note to COM and said that it's three-way benefit, three-way win-win. Truckwala wins because he reduces his cost, railway gets money, and diesel for the nation is saved. And I worked out the economics and sent it to FNCO. We had no interdepartmental kind of situation in Konkan Railway. Everybody used to work together. And Sridharan sir immediately said, yes, okay, we must try this. Now I think it's more than 100 crores per year for Konkan Railway by taking from Kolar to Mangalore. They run Kolar to Tukur, that is Mangalore. Now, what was said about this, India can triumph in a way that the West is envy. And I think you repeated what Saida said, but the last line is important. Exclusively Indian finance. There was no foreign aid. Designs of bridges and tunnels, technology, contractors, equipment, machinery, material, organization, management skills. That is what Swedish International Development Agency said when they made a report, because they aided us in getting 7 drilling jumbos for our rock tunnels. They gave the aid of, I think, 50 crores or something that time. Now, just to tell you one small story about this, I think we have a little more time. I hope we have a little more time.
Yes, sir.
Based on this, that time I think MSRTC started a project of expressway, and they had these long tunnels. So one fine morning, Mr. Bongirwal, who was the joint MD, he called me when I was going from Kulaba to my office in Belapur. He said, drop in. So I dropped in at 9:30 or something, Marsban Road, PWD office. And then we discussed that this is a plan, these are the tunnels you have to make, how do we go about it? We wanted some technical advice. So I thought it's limited to technical advice. So I told him that we deploy drilling jumbos, we have got, we can sell you the drilling jumbos. Our work is over and you can employ the contract. Then after that 1 hour discussion, I went to the office. By the time I landed in the office at Belapur, the 10 number was there on my phone. 10 was Mr. Sridharan's number. So I said, what happened? Let me go. So I just rang him. He said, come. So I went to his chamber. And he said, he suddenly showed me a fax. I said, what fax? No. They have said that you discuss this thing with them. Well, I thought that without his permission, I did something wrong. No. They want us to take up the work on cost plus basis. They don't want our machines. They want us to take up the contract. And then he said, yes, we'll go ahead. Why not? Let us do it. And then he make the contract papers ready, cost plus basis and all that in 1 week's time, and let's go to them. So I made the papers, showed it to accounts. Raj Lakshmi was the chief accounts officer, director of finance, I think, the chief accounts officer. She became later on director of finance of the Indian Railways. Not director, financial commissioner, the top boss in finance. So she saw to it, then we finalized it, and I went back. And they said, okay, go ahead. And the agreement I remember was signed with Mr. Gadkari, who was there that time minister, the MD, Mr. Sinha, RC Sinha, and Mr. Bongirwal. Within 2 weeks, we got a contract of cost plus 10% constructing tunnels on expressway, and they were beautifully done by Konkan. I must say that, beautifully done. First time on highway, such long tunnels. And that set the tone for producing the manual of highway tunnels. This is another bridge which was a challenge for me, thrown by Western Railway CB. The bridge washed away 3 spans of 40 feet near Dano on the main line. And they restored it within 1 week, but they wanted to build a final bridge before next monsoon. So he wanted a design which can be implemented in that time. On the same alignment, they had restored, they didn't have diversion. So under the bridge, we have to construct another bridge and then transfer the track. So this was the situation when I landed there. These arches had collapsed. One we can see small portion, and they had erected like this. And we have to put piers in between this without disturbing this. So obviously pile was the solution. But again, the space was limited. So we had designed piles in this format, zigzag. so that we reduce this, so we get space 2D between the two. And then the single circular piers and 40 feet span on the top, which is again precast. So the span on the top, span on the top is precast units placed side by side, which can be launched during the traffic block of the railway. Now, Rajdhani route to get a traffic block is not that easy, and we have to complete one deck at least in one block. Otherwise, the whole traffic to Delhi will be stopped. So this is how it was done. This is a pillar which has come up, and now the units will be laid on the top of this pillar. And their depth and all that was based on the highway, the railway line levels. They can't be changed. So this is the final bridge you can see. Girders have been laid 40 feet and the things have been removed. So these are the challenges in railways that you have to construct under traffic. And you have to, and this particular thing I must tell you that one of my designers, when I was working in Owen Williams, we did it at that time. He went to UK, later on shifted to UK, and he gave MI structure exam, and he presented this, and they were just shocked that we can do things like that. And he said, because of this, I got MI structure.
Okay, that's the story.
Yeah, they really got surprised that India can do it. Then 12-meter wide concrete FOBs was a challenge thrown to me by the then GM, Mr. Sudhir Chandra, who must be listening to this, was a member of the TEAC in Pune Metro. So he said, construct something different, Limaye. We are tired of looking at the same things. So I said, okay, let me take up the challenge and do something which can be really done fast and in concrete he wanted, not in steel. So this is how this challenge came. And you can see the way I have done it. Railway has got a schedule of dimensions where there's a Lakshman Rekha like this because the train movement. So this has been designed keeping in that mind that we have got a frame which shapes like this and girder sits here. So I reduced the span to 11 meters, which was otherwise becoming about 18 meters up to the center of that. An 18 meter span PSC girder with normal deck, cast in situ deck would have made a depth of about 1.8 meters. This reduced it to 1 meter. So 0.8 meter is a saving for people to climb down. And how many do it in Ghatkopar or Dombivli people know? And this is done for the first time. I used hollow slab units with pipe put inside that and pre-tension pre-stressed. And that's standing very well. You get a very flat soffit and very sleek. And this parapet is also part of the girder, not separately done. It's part of this girder which is cast. See, this is a bridge. This is a frame. And you can extend, multiply it this way. If you want wider, you can have wider. Because it's just unitary this thing approach. And this is the top of the bridge. You can see how wide it is. And this is, thereafter I worked on Mahanadi Bridge, one of the most challenging projects also, where I worked for Soville and Scott Wilson. That is Sir Owen Williams and Scott Wilson, not us, Halcro, sorry. Halcro Zevi. I was the project director of this. And I had to work directly at site for a while. There was some problem with the team leader. And I had planned the whole work, and there 32 girders of 63 meters steel through were fabricated at site by BBZ. And very first girder was done so accurately because we insisted that will not allow any damage, welding and all. RTSO approved in first trip, which hardly has ever happened. A girder fabricated at site approved on the first trip without any questions.
Wow.
I think, yeah. And this project of RVNL was completed in flat 3 years by JV of Gammon and BBZ, because again we worked as a team. Normally in India, what happens? Engineer wants to be very much aloof. Engineer doesn't feel that he's in the war. He's part of the battle, and he has to work with the contractor. Today, what happens? You employ a general consultant, whatever you may call them, PMC. He thinks he's a kind of a third party, Sthita Prajna. So he's just looking at you. Are not supposed to look at the things. There are problems which you have to say, solve and approve. Today, even the word approve is missing, I find. We have copied the foreigners, but they do in a different way in those countries. Now the new word is no. I said, how no can be yes, yes, yeah. No, he said, no ka long form aapko malum nahi. Notice of no objection. So that's a funny thing which is happening. In every Konkan Railway drawing, it's approved and signed by me and my deputy chief engineer, if I am not there in certain drawings. But it said approved, that is the word. And Britishers also, I have seen 1800 drawings of Western Railway, 1860. They write approved, not like this. Somebody will see, third party will see, fourth party will check. This is what is happening in India. And we have lost confidence in ourselves. I'm using strong words, but this is the truth. And this will, just because of that, I'm telling you, there are serious problems in this. We sorted out Stoop were the designers. I was not in Stoop that time. And we sat with them and he said, okay, go ahead with the solution. Every site they are going to have problems. Then Mulchand Extra was after the collapse of Cable State Bridge at Kota. Sridharan had a doubt and they had a collapse in, just before that, I think that collapse happened in Delhi Metro. So he called me and said, can you check this once again? I want somebody to see. So he gave me this and we checked it and we didn't find some deficiencies, not very great, but we corrected them. And this is the first cable state bridge on metro in India at Mulchand in Delhi and come out very well. Part of that is incurred.
Beautiful.
So we bought a software for this and we analyzed this in Stoop. This was when I was in Stoop. Then ballastless track was the most challenging when Mr. Modi was the chief minister of Ahmedabad. And he had given a challenge to the city engineer that this has to be opened on 26th of January. And I was given this work of track design sometimes in earlier May. They wanted a ballastless track basically for the joy train. And then I had to develop it, I had to get it implemented. They will appoint a contractor when I was in Stoop. And nobody wanted to touch it. Earlier, one consultant took, but he gave me. He said, no, I can't do it. It's too dangerous. And this is Mr. Modi's constituency, happened to Kankaria Tala. And everybody was greatly afraid of him. Then this is a beautiful track built on concrete. I developed a new fastening system. But they had a contractor which worked with us earlier in Western Railway. I explained to him. Just one episode I'll tell you. When the boss is interested, what can happen? City engineer of Ahmedabad city used to stand here till night 12 o'clock by himself. Once he called me for the meeting, I went by morning flight just to finalize. They had made some trial length in their office and I wanted to see and approve. So he said, come down. So I said, I'll come directly from the airport. I went there, he was sitting. Suddenly a phone came and he said, I have to go for some meeting. You have. After 10 minutes, I find this gentleman is back. I said, what happened? What happened to your meeting? No, that meeting is not important. This is Namo's work.
Oh.
Finalized, and I had to watch all the diseases today, and we'll go ahead. So I said, okay, let's see. So we made some corrections because there's some problems in implementation. So immediately it started, and this was completed in time with great geometry. And the train was brought from UK, and UK engineers said that 99% okay. The track is built. This is a train. And I was very happy to see these children in all the lovely train, which is 2 kilometers long, round the lake.
Super.
Then this is famous Ram Jhula at Nagpur. We had several problems in this in terms of design. And this is 110 meter and above 7 railway operating tracks. This is constructed in Nagpur station. This is the final bridge.
Okay.
Now, the change which I have made in this is very important, which I will show you now. The anchorage has been brought to the top of the concrete deck and not the bottom. This I saw in China when I went there in 2009 for opening up for award ceremony of Lupu Bridge in Shanghai. This is basically how they do it in steel, which I saw in Sutong, where they attach this and the anchorage comes on the top so that it can be maintained and we can do replacement of cables, etc., if required. Now, in a railway situation, you can imagine if this anchorage goes on the top of the track where you have no access, what are you going to do if something happens? The electrified territory, you can't do that, you can't inspect. So I said, let us put the plate, but two with shear connectors. So this plate goes inside the body of the concrete girder, and through shear connector, it transfers the load and then transfer it to these cables. And that
Wow.
became so simple because otherwise putting the anchorage at the bottom with live tracks under was a great problem from a railway point of view to give blocks and things like that. And bottom socket absolutely became flat. And reinforcement detailing became much simpler. The last one, I think, probably the Vaira bridge in Bangladesh, which is my proud achievement. This bridge consultancy contract of design, bid processing, and supervision was taken by Stoop and Scott Wilson, India. And I was the team leader for part one, that is planning, design, and bid processing. This is at Vaira Prajar near Akhawra, that is very close to Agartala. And there are total, I think, 26 bridges in this project. The biggest is Vaira. And this is a bridge across the mighty river Meghna. And they wanted, this was under Indian credit line of $10 million. And this particular bridge was costing 1,000 crore takas. So this planning was to be done exactly in 6 months, and I landed in March of 2012. It is along Chittagong railway line, and most of the projects on this line were with Chinese. I am telling you this, especially.
Okay.
The challenge was to be thrown to China that we can do it. And that is what I am telling all the participants, that we have to take up such challenges if we want to survive in the world market. Africa, unfortunately, we didn't take up. They have entered in a big way, which we could have done if we would have done in this fashion. This was funded through Exim Bank, 2 more major bridges and many more, and alignment, signaling, everything was involved. This project was just completed in 3 years after the day of start by Indian contractors on a bridge on the river like this. This is the new bridge, second Vaira railway bridge. We use for the first time 2.5 meter diameter piles. We have introduced O cells for testing. And this is the old meter gauge bridge, again, I think constructed by Hindustan in the year 1936. That was time United India. And this was done by us. And one dargah was coming here. Just for the dargah, I told those people we'll add 3 spans. So we added 3 spans at the earthwork. And the dargah was said, they were very happy. I said, this is a solution, do it. So in fact, the detailing, I'm just trying to explain how planning is important, which I learned in Konkan Railway. The entire survey and alignment we applied thorough mind, you can say. How it will be done, right from that. Where will be our base? From where the girders will come, parts will come, where it will be assembled, how it will be launched, how the piling will be done. Every small detailing was done and written down in the contract. Entire design was done by us. Contractor has to only come and implement. There is no design build. So he has not to look for approval anywhere. It's approved, stamp. He gets a drawing on day one. Go ahead. That is how this was accomplished. And you can see the beautiful bridge. And they had doubt when we are going so close. They said, no, I said, no, it will work. We can go close. So we had just 40 meters. If we would have gone more, we had problems on both the sides. We have to merge with the existing lines. So just at 40 meters and done in 3 years. This is the layout of the piles. 6 piles under the pier, 2.5 meter, going to minus 59 meter. The depth of pile is more than 60 meters from the top, 2.5 meter diameter. These are the size you can see. And this is the O cell. Just for testing of pile, we introduce O cell, and by hydraulics, it presses down under the reaction of this, and then we come to know what is the end bearing. And this is what was inaugurated by both the prime ministers through video conferencing way back in 9 November 2017. And I started the work, I said, 2012 March. So you can see how the projects happen even in Bangladesh if you desire. And this was a challenge to Chinese because Chinese could not complete the earlier section. Just before that, again. And Pune Metro, now we come to again complete what innovations were. Now, the present line, you must have seen that this is all cast in situ. Now, the Reach 3, that is from Civil Court to Burn Garden and beyond, we are adopting precast. So this is in M70. These are in M60. These are precast in the yard. This one weighs 78 tons. This one, this extension weighs 38 tons, and they are match cast. This is important because the location of this joint has to be away from this. Many times people are just showing that it has been done here. It can't be done here because this is maximum moment and maximum shear. So this is away from that because you are not continuing the reinforcement. This is now happening and people can see this. This is just, I think, at RTO. This is what is match casting, and these are pre-stressing strand ducts. And this is how it happens. Section is brought, joined, cables are thread, and then stretched. And you can see the concrete finish because precast is absolutely well finished. Harris Metro Bridge is another example where, to my mind, we saved 100 crores. Because they constructed 4 bridges, one old, one relatively new, 1982, and 2 more on the sides. I found there was a gap between 2 bridges, the Arch Bridge and one constructed by Mr. Karpuri in 1983. So we took the pier through the gap. This work is happening now. And foundation, there was a problem that there was no space to put proper foundation, so we made H foundation. And the pier comes out of this. So this is envelope. And the pier comes here. Again, moldability of concrete. What can you do? And then we reduce the size of pier just to maintain, I think, 200 mm clearance between the parapet of this and my pier. And then one side cantilever is slightly larger than the other side. And this is the way we retained this foundation. We did micropiling and then done. This I had done in Mumbai at Andheri crossing of metro. Ghatkopar, Ghatkopar Warsaw metro, which goes across the railway. Same type of thing was done next to the railway track. And there were some 300 trains every day used to pass through the track. So this stood well. And that is what was copied out here. And this is how it is going to come out. This will just become like some foreign country view. That the piers will come out from here. These are the 4 bridges. 1, 2. This is the oldest bridge. Yeah, this is the oldest bridge. So this is, I think this is the oldest bridge. This is Garpure's bridge, and these are the 2 now constructed.
Okay.
But otherwise, the line would have to go there. The line would have to go here. And then we would have to spend land acquisition in CME. And as you know, the defense forces, how much time they will take and how much money they will charge is anybody's imagination. And this is how the viaduct looks. Again, the whole thing precast now, everybody knows this. I need not talk about it. We have gone ahead with great quality and we have shown great progress. And there are certain interchanges which are envisaged when I change the alignment, that we have an interchange at the food grain go down area where 3 lines will meet each other. And this is a type of station we are going to build at Sambhaji Park along the riverside. And this is the bridge which is now on the anvil, shaped like Tanpura next to Balgandhar Road. And this is a cable stayed bridge which will add to the beauty of the river. And what I want to give you in the end, we are all caught too much with the disease of fear and danger. History is not made by cowards. So engineers, unless they move confidently and have the confidence that we can do it, nothing is going to happen. I showed you right from 1920. The idea was that what people used to do that time with confidence. What we did, what railway did in the earlier times, like Assam Rail Link and so many projects, Third Ghat Line, so many difficult projects. Later on in Konkan Railway. But now in this century, we have deviated from that path and we want so many people to carry our cross. Cross has to be carried by the concerned agency. It can't be carried by others. And people must remember that always. And you can't put a gun on the other man's shoulder and fire it all the time. Then we won't be able to achieve anything. Thank you very much. If any other questions are there, I'll be pleased to answer. Maybe another 5 minutes.
Yes.
Yes.
So, I mean, I'm speechless, and this is actually like getting on a station and going on a journey where you really do not know where your next destination would be. So I think, as somebody said, the destination is important, but the journey is as important, if not more important, than the destination. And I think, Limaye sir, we are extremely grateful to you, because what you gave us is not only an very enhanced state of pride in what we are, but you also gave us an idea of who we were, who we are, and the sweet promise of who we can be in the world itself. So on this note, I would like to take a few questions, which actually we've already done. There was one question which somebody has asked, where he asks that most of the tracks in the Konkan Railway are single track. There is Dr. Shastri from Sinhagad College of Engineering has asked this question. Even today, most of the Konkan Railway is single track except few stretches. What are the future plan to convert entire stretch as double track to avoid delays considering future traffic?
Now in railways, there are different steps to increase the line capacity, and they are already seriously taking the first step of electrifying the whole section, which will increase the speed of the trains by average speed of the trains by at least 25%. So your line capacity goes up by 25%. As far as doubling is concerned, they will have to do it gradually, and they already embarked upon the first section from Roha Road to Veer, and from the other side from Mangalore to Udupi, that they have started. But that has to progress gradually because of the funds problems. So that time also we could not do it because, as you know, in 1991, the country was absolutely in doldrums. And how Konkan Railway happened itself is a miracle. Because that time, if it was a government project, not a PPP, not a BOT, the project would have been stopped. I'm quite sure. And it would have never happened perhaps after. So it will happen in time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think, friends, with this we come to the end of our program. And before I request Chitra ma'am, who represents ICI Pune chapter, I would like to again say something which was more a state of my emotions at that time, rather than any formal announcement or a very formal note. I just said, stormy nights and torrential rain, snake bites and work fatigue, pitch dark, and only the blinding glare of floodlights. Just the sound of crickets and thunder, and the clang of steel on steel as hundreds of able-bodied men far from home work together as one. The years, every second of it accounted for, every drop of sweat given to the idea of India. And the miracle was the sublime, the beautiful, the perfectly planned lifeline and the Konkan Railway. And the same people who were participants in this miracle are now building India track by track. After this, I would like to read one poem in which I will ask Chitra ma'am to give the vote of thanks, and then I shall announce the end of the program. It's a poem by Robert Frost, which all of us have read as little kids, enamored by the beauty of the rail. And whoever thought that the railways could connect to this poem so beautifully? And as I read out, the woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. Limaye sir, I would like to very audaciously say that this poem is a part of you and is a part of the way we all perceive you. Thank you very much again. Sometimes it's best to not say anything rather than say too much. And on this account, I would like to hand over the mic to Chitra Gore ma'am, who represents ICI chapter. Please, Chitra ma'am, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Priya ma'am.
Summing up, thank you.
Thank you, Priya ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, ma'am. You are perfectly audible.
Thank you. Such a mesmerizing talk and presentation this was. On behalf of all here, I bow down to Limaye sir in deep respect and admiration, sir. Limaye sir, you're the epitome of resolve, fortitude, determination, endurance, perseverance, grit and strength, coupled with engineering ingenuity and management skills bound by strength of character. Only then do you have such tough projects materialize in the way they have. On behalf of Indian Concrete Institute Pune Centre and Ultratech Cement Limited, I thank you, Mr. Limaye, for making us live the adventure of your projects, one of which is the Konkan Railway project, for which you and your team toiled for 8 years with mind, body, and soul. And now it is the Pune Metro taking shape under your guidance, and it is sure to be a blessing for Pune. Pune is waiting for it. I wish to quote 2 lines here. निश्चयाचा महामेरू, बहुत जनासी आधारू, अखंड स्थितीचा निर्धारू, श्रीमंत योगी. These lines were said in praise of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj by his own guru, Samarth Ramdas Swami Maharaj. They fit you so aptly, Limaye sir. अखंड भारताशी जोडणारे तुम्ही स्थापत्य योगी. We wish you the very best in your future endeavors and wish that you continue to groom youngsters so that they will independently carry on the legacy to make India a well-connected, greener place to live in. And yes, of course, Atmanirbhar too. Now I turn to the
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I turn to the other wonderful person on this digital dais, architect Madam Priya Gokhale. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation to conduct these conversations. To make this program a seamless one and to fit it in the time frame of 2 hours was a difficult job. To bring out the best in an event in the given time is your forte, and you have taken great efforts to make this happen. You also made a beautiful video flyer yourself so that many could be reached out to be made aware of this program. The last poem that you read out was so wonderful. Again, to bring out the best from the best in the industry surely was a challenge, but you have done it 2 times in a row. Thank you ever so much, Priya ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
I thank all of you who have joined here for participating in this celebration and encouraging us. And special mention to Mr. Limaye's colleagues who are also with us. I remember the names he took: Mr. Kashalkar, Mr. Joshi, Mr. Vijay Kulkarni, S.C. Gupta, Mr. Dandekar. All of you here, welcome from ICI Pune Centre, and thank you for being with us and being here for Mr. Limaye. In this Concrete Day celebration of 2020, Ultratech Cement Limited has joined hands with us, and they have been very active supporters in this program. Sending invitations, registration links for joining the program, sending reminders was done by them in close coordination with our team. I'm grateful to Mr. YTVV Prasad, Zonal Technical Head, Mr. Heman Jain, Regional Technical Head, Mr. Harsh Shah, Pune Technical Officer, for their immense support to make the program a very, very well attended success. I thank our own digital team, Mr. Amit Haridas, Mr. Suhas Bhise, Mrs. Sucheta Kalawar, without whose tireless efforts this Digital Concrete Day celebration would not have really been possible. Being civil engineers themselves and having their own businesses to look after, they have very selflessly given a lot of time in research work for digital platforms, making beautiful invitations, reaching them out far and wide, troubleshooting for participants' problems, and as a result of which we are having these seamless sessions. Last but not the least, I thank Mr. Arun Karnik, our ICI Pune Centre coordinator, who has written down the sequence of events, made his own checklist, and has seen to it that all details are looked into. Our next program in this series is on coming Sunday, 20th September 2020, My Tryst with Construction by Mr. Vivek Gadgil, ex-Chief Executive and MD of L&T Hyderabad Metro Rail. In his program, he will share with us some interesting anecdotes, his career choices, and progress of the construction industry in last 5 decades. You must not miss it. With this, I conclude, and I hand over again to Priya ma'am.
Thanks,
Thank you.
friends. Thank you very much, Chitra. That was extremely mellow and very beautifully. And I'm humbled to be part of this. From my side, before I announce the end of the program, heartfelt and ardent thanks to Ujjwal Kunte, Prasad, Chitra ma'am, Suchita, Arun, who have all become my very close and very dear friends, and whom I am greatly inspired by. Thank you, sir. Limaye sir has also become a very good friend along with Geeta ma'am, who were such wonderful hosts to me, and we got chatting. Limaye sir, I ask you for such similar opportunities to meet you at home. On this account, on this note, friends, God bless, stay safe, always be happy. Jai Hind, I announce the end of this program. Thank you.